Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Judy and I love travel, people, and figuring out how the two get together. No matter how carefully you plan, the day will come when you don't know exactly where you are. Today I'm going to do a short take on how to figure out where you are and how to get to where you want to be. Let's figure this thing out together today on The Armchair Traveler. Anyone can get lost at any time and any place. I really ought to know because, among other things, I have a terrible sense of direction and I do have a habit of wandering off to look at stuff. What I want to talk about today is how to stay safe and stay found. So let's start with some tips. The first thing is, once you get to your hotel, the front desk will almost certainly have a city map filled with various promotions designed to separate you from your money. And it won't be a very good map. You can always get a better one, either from the local Tourist Information Bureau or on your phone. Do not neglect this step. The hotel map will show you the location of the hotel and the address. Ask for one. It's free. Ask the person at the desk to circle the hotel on the map if it's not obvious to you. And while you're at it, pick up a hotel business card or write down that address neatly and put it separately, maybe in a wallet, so if you lose the map, you can still show the address to someone if you need to. Every day before you set out, especially when you don't know the area or if you're going to be traveling after dark, consider having an itinerary and a travel route. If I'm in a new city, I'll actually write down the steps. Go so far, turn left, go so much further to such and such a street, turn right. In the old days, I used to do this as pen and paper, but now even I use the app on my smartphone. I generally travel solo these days, and as a single female traveler, I'm a bit more cautious than I used to be. I generally also don't wander around aimlessly. Look for landmarks. This is important when you're navigating inside a city. It's even more important when you sally forth on a guided tour that takes you outside the city. Eventually, you may get off the bus, be turned loose, and expected to make your way back to some meeting point at some specific time to meet the bus. Your cell phone can save you. Some of them, it varies by the operating system and the software you're using, will even allow you to set a parking spot. If that doesn't appeal, use the handy camera in your cell phone to take a photo, not just of the bus, although that's a good idea too, but also of the closest street sign. Finally, find out how to recognize a legitimate cab. Let's get real here. Most cabbies, Uber and Lyft drivers are honest, decent, honorable people just trying to earn a living. The trouble comes when you get involved with one of those whose idea is of earning a living includes separating you from your possessions. The hotel should be able to tell you how to recognize a legitimate cab in your area. Eventually, no matter how careful you are going to get lost. It's inevitable. The first step is don't panic. Your job is to find yourself. You can't do this if you're in a state of panic. So my advice is to stop cold in your tracks and don't wander further away. Take a deep breath, find somewhere safe to sit down, even if that means going into a cafe and ordering an espresso. And incidentally, that shouldn't cost you more than €2 or €2.50 in most of Western Europe. And it gives you access to a bathroom. And reorient yourself. It's important to disguise what you might be feeling. I think pickpockets, robbers, and other creeps are capable of sensing panic, just like a dog can. You don't want to give off that vibe. Your next step is to figure out where you are. There's a couple of ways you can do it. One is to open up your phone and pull up Google Maps or another map application and see if it will find you. An even better one is to pull out your handy-dandy map and ask the waiter to show you where you are. Once you know where you are, you can figure out how to get to where you want to be. You have plenty of options for doing this. Remember those landmarks I told you about? Most big cities have at least one landmark to see above all the shorter buildings. In Paris, I think it's probably the Eiffel Tower, but every city is like this. Incidentally, most landmarks, at least the big ones, have nearby public transportation, and most public transit stops, bus, train, and subway, at least in my experience, have maps right there for you to use. Afterwards, or perhaps while you're en route, you may want to ask someone for directions. And be prepared to ask this more than once when you set out. I'm older, so I generally ask women, but you do what works for you. Probably a very good idea to learn at least a few phrases in the local language, things like please, thank you, where is. You can also use a translation app on most cell phones. You type in the the question and you hand it to whoever you're talking to, and they type in the answer. Problem solved, as far as I can tell. Even in Paris, which has the reputation, I think undeserved, as one of the snobbiest cities on the planet, I've never had anyone in half a century turn me down when I asked for help. However, you do have to keep in mind, just because someone lives or appears to live in the city doesn't mean they automatically know where every single landmark for a 10-mile radius might be. I was once in New York years ago, 2 blocks from Herald Square, and looking for Macy's. One enterprising but equally lost New Yorker, she must have been from one of the outer boroughs, tried to direct me to Long Island. There are times when it pays to pay for internet access. Your cell phone, once you get a signal, will not only tell you where you are, but also tell you how to get to where you want to be. Keep in mind, however, that the maps are not infallible. Google Maps, I'm a-talking about you and the time you sent me on a 2-mile detour, on foot, out of my way, at night, in the rain, through some dark alleys, trying to navigate back to the hotel from a theater in London. Finally, if all else fails, or you're really short on time, consider springing for a cab. Remember to look for a legitimate cab and be a little cautious. I was in my 20s when I was groped by a cabbie in Spain back in 1970 and mostly have avoided them ever since. But that was a long time ago. I've given you a lot of tools, most of them free or already paid for, that will help you avoid getting lost, and if you do get lost, help find yourself. A little bit of advanced planning, looking at a map, writing down addresses, planning out your route, using your cell phone can go a very long way to keeping you safe, found, and sound. The trick, if you do get lost, is to take stock of where you are and follow these small steps to reorient yourself so you can be on your merry way. Thank you for joining me today for help on avoiding getting lost or left behind and finding yourself if you do. Come back next time for another adventure with me here on The Armchair Traveler.